saw that neither Jesus nor his disciples were there, they themselves got into the boats and went to Capernaum looking for Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, "Rabbi, when did you come here?" Jesus answered them, "Very truly, I tell you, you are looking for me not because you saw the signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures for eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For it is on him that God the Father has set his seal." Then they said to him, "What must we do to perform the works of God?" Jesus answered them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent." So they said to him, "What sign are you going to give us then, that we may see it and believe you? What work are you performing? Our ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat." And Jesus said to them, "Very truly, I tell you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." They said to him, "Sir, give us this bread always." Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Christ. You may be seated. A word to give your spirit a moment to pause from the Beatitudes. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. How many hungry people are you carrying? One night, as he was tucking her into bed, a little girl asked her father, "Daddy, what's your favorite Bible story?" He said, "Ooh, man, there's so many. But the one we read tonight at dinner time has got to be up near the top of the list. It's the one about the 4 people that carried their friend to Jesus and let him down through the roof. That one is one of my favorite because it reminds me of the way my Uncle Hans was healed." And she said, "I don't know that story. Tell it to me." So he explained that Uncle Hans was a teacher in the seminary who, at the start of the Second World War, escaped Europe to come to America to continue teaching in the church's seminary. But his English wasn't so good, so it was a rocky start at the beginning. But in time, he found his way, and he became one of the most beloved teachers in the seminary because of his warm and gentle nature and of the way that when his students listened to him teach, the Bible just came alive for them. And Hans and his wife Enid were just 2 lovebirds that the seminary staff and faculty and students just loved to watch. They'd take long walks together, holding hands, they'd sit together in church and such. But then one day, Enid died, and Hans was plunged into sorrow and depression. You might call it the dark night of his soul that he experienced. And he struggled. He stopped eating regularly. He stopped taking his regular walks. So the president of the seminary and 3 of Hans's friends would come to visit and try to encourage him through this tough time. And one day, Hans said to the 4 of them, "I can't pray anymore. In fact, I'm not even sure I believe in God anymore." And there was this long pause. And then the president of the seminary broke the silence by saying, "Okay, then, we will believe for you. We will make confession for you. And we will pray for you." And the 3 other colleagues were kind of looking, kind of stunned at this remark, but they didn't say anything. They just kind of went along with it. And for the next months, the 4 of them got together and they prayed for Hans that God would restore his gift of faith. They made confession for Hans, and they went through this. They kept visiting him to support him. And then finally one day they came to visit, and Hans said, "Before we start, I need to say this. Today you don't have to pray for me. You can pray with me." And the dark night of his soul had passed. So there was some silence, and the little girl took it all in and said, "You know, Daddy, Uncle Hans was like the man that they carried to see Jesus, but instead of carrying him on his bed, they carried him in their prayers, right?" And Dad nodded and kissed her goodnight. Not all hungers have really anything to do with bread. The little children of Trinity, the families who are here want them to have a good start in life, and so they're taken to that font. They're carried in arms, moms and dads, grandparents, sponsors, accompanied with siblings perhaps. And the physical act of carrying a child to the font represents the spiritual act of carrying that child in your heart, carrying them into the presence of God, carrying them into the midst of a community of faith and grace in which, this is why Lutherans want to baptize as soon as possible, because we all deserve to live in a community of grace and not wait till someday down the road. And someday that little one who is carried to the font will grow up to the point where they'll say, I want to carry somebody that way. And maybe that one who is now grown up will be carrying the child that she has born in her own prayers. Maybe that one who has grown up will carry a friend of hers in her prayers. Or maybe that one who has now grown up will carry you in his prayers. Not every hunger has to do with bread. There are at least two groups of people in this room today. The ones that I and you can see, the visible people, and there's the invisible people, the ones that you brought with you here. Those are your family, your friends, the dear ones. And during this service, if you haven't already, you'll be praying for those people. You'll be carrying them in your heart to God for the kinds of hungers they're experiencing. Some of the second group are not here, but they used to be here. And you probably still carry them in your heart, asking that God will look after them wherever they've gone. Some of those people that used to sit in these seats near you and with you have maybe found other faith communities, and if so, that's good, but maybe not all. And so if you're carrying some of those people in your heart today, in your prayer today, please do not be surprised. First of all, as you pray that, give God a space to answer. And please don't be surprised if your name should come back as part of the answer to how that prayer might work itself out. In the first reading from Exodus chapter 16, we hear the Israelites complaining again. If you go back and look at the story, they've made it to the other side of the Red Sea, a great, awesome moment, and they sing and dance for a little while. And then 4 verses later, they're complaining. It's only 4 verses at most before we liked it better back then. They're complaining in chapter 16 about having no food. In 15, they're complaining about having no water. They're like a bunch of babies. When we were babies, we could cry or yell our lungs out until somebody showed up with food, and then we were happy again. Most of us, who are now adults, have learned not to do that anymore. I can't say every adult I've met has learned that lesson, but a lot of us still get hungry, but we do our crying on the inside. You know what I mean? So that nobody can hear that. So ask yourself, what are the things for which you hunger and thirst? There are, of course, the basics of food and water, but I'm talking about past that. What are the things that you're looking for? The kind of hungers and thirst that bread and water and food cannot satisfy. The physical hungers that we have in terms of health and healing, the emotional hungers we have, the spiritual hungers we have. Is everybody in the room feeling totally at ease, totally fulfilled, totally satisfied, totally grown up and complete? Some of you may have seen this picture I've kept on my office wall for a long time. It's a picture I clipped out of a copy of Christianity Today, almost 40 years ago. I don't know who painted the portrait. I don't know what he called it, but I call it Jesus the Good Contractor. It's a picture of Jesus with his the sleeves of his robe rolled up. He's got a shovel, and he's helping unload a load of concrete into a foundation. And I use this picture, I take it off the wall, and I share it with parents who are about to have their child baptized. And I say, thank you for saying to Jesus what your child can't say today, and that is, please lay down a solid foundation in the life of my child. And then I put it back up on the wall until that child is grown up and is now 14 years old or so. And I take the picture back off the wall and I'll say, please notice that Jesus wasn't just putting down a patio slab. There's a pile of bricks back here which suggests he's building a building. And one of the ways you can understand confirmation is it's your chance to say, Jesus, will you stay on the job? And Jesus says, I'm on. And then I put it back up on the wall. And then anytime, and this I use this now at least 3 churches, if not more, our congregation, like Trinity, welcomes new members into its fellowship. I take the picture down again, and I ask, and I'll ask the question again here, is anyone a finished project? And in using this picture for all these years, I've only had one person say yes, and it was a smart aleck 8th grader in a confirmation class. Because none of us are done. If anybody says they're done, we're going to trade places this morning. I'm going to sit and learn from you, because all of us are still under construction. All of us need from time to time a little demo and remodeling and so on. You get what I'm talking about. So, if we're not finished yet, think of the distance between where you are today and that destination that God sees for your life. Think of that distance as your hunger and your thirst. At least I hope you hunger to arrive at what I would call God's preferred future for your life. I hope you hunger for that. And I hope that you hunger to see other people achieve that place in their life too. And those are the things that we carry in our hearts. That I carry for you, you carry for me, we carry for each other. Those are the hungers and the hungry people we carry in our hearts. The Israelites who ate manna experienced temporary filling, but they were hungry again the next day. The people that were following Jesus that we heard about today in that reading, maybe they thought after all that bread last week, they would never be hungry again. But they knew better. But they were on the right track, because for some of those that followed Jesus, they learned that experiencing the physical hunger opened up the door to discover the deeper spiritual hungers that all of us have. The hungers that can only be satisfied by the bread of life. So once again today, we're going to come forward and have a little taste of bread and a little taste of wine. And in doing that, you will first of all be making a confession of sin. That I don't have what I need, that you've got it, Lord, fill me. You'll be making a confession of hope, that you will be seen to that destination. You'll be making a confession of a proclamation of thanksgiving for the gift of life that's been given to you. And take hold of that life that's offered to you, which is really the life that's taken hold of you and will never let you go. So the one who was born in the house of bread, the one who died on the cross thirsty, the one who, when he was raised to new life and opened the door to the new creation, one of the ways he began to reveal that to his disciples was in the breaking of the bread. That one invites you to take hold of that life which is his life and make it your own. And know that your hungers will be satisfied. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry. And whoever believes in me will never be thirsty.